you mentioned something about people losing weight and gaining it back, and you mentioned something very important, that they often never change the mindset. They never change the mind, but they change the body. And then if you don't change the mind, the body comes back. So
Exactly.
my philosophy is that any nutrition plan is the outside game. Of course, macros matter, calories count, calories in, calories out, in, out matter. How you move your body, training matters. The inside game, what traumas, what limiting beliefs, what old stories are you still processing that you haven't let go of? Because that's still stuck in your fat cells. And unless you're willing to do the inside game and the outside game, I believe permanent weight loss doesn't happen. For me and my clients, that's what we do. We spend more time on the inside game than the outside game.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to Neff Inspiration, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. Another fantastic day for an interview. I've got Colin F. Watson with me. Colin is a man who has lived his life to the fullest in many aspects, and especially so since he has figured out that maybe certain coping mechanisms and certain ways of living were not so productive. So he has had a major transformation in his life, and later on, he had even more challenges and had to really prove that A, the past does not equal the future, and B, that there is hope, that there is help, and that you should never give up. And once you put small but regular steps in the right direction and create the right habits, then suddenly your life changes so much. It's no longer, you can no longer believe it. So I can't wait to dig in. Colin, welcome to my show.
Pleasure to be here, Stefan. Thank you for the invite.
Oh dear, I don't know where to start with you because there's so many things that I want to dive into. But Colin, for those of you on the pot match, what you would be looking at is a very muscular and very fit specimen, ruggedly handsome, who has got the same hairdresser as I have. So this is a man who clearly looks after himself. Having said that, I know that your past was a bit different, wasn't it?
That's slightly different, yes.
Tell us a bit about the bad old times.
Um, if you really knew me, you'd know that the man who's here today and the man I was in my 20s and 30s and even early 40s was a different guy. I grew up in a relatively affluent area in the San Fernando Valley. One of the very few people of color in in the area which I grew up. Went to an primarily all white elementary school, all white junior high school, and then got integrated in a little bit of junior high school and high school. And I was an athlete. Who did really well in athletics, not very well in academics. But my athletic career seemed to they pushed me past it. When I got out of high school, I was settling to where I would go to college. I was a father of a son of a dentist, and so I was always expected to become a dentist. And I hated going to the dentist. Didn't want to be a dentist. But I found myself coming out of high school, and then I started dabbling in, the party scene and alcohol and drugs and whatever happened, I started, cocaine seemed to be the drug that made me feel the most normal. For some reason, it allowed me to focus and gave me a personality beyond my normal boring self, I guess. I mean, I was a pretty popular kid, but for some reason I felt like it somehow gave me a superpower. And of course, once you chase that superpower per se, it becomes pretty evident that it's not really the superpower. It's not really the drug is really not helping you be any different. It's just masking or allowing you to show some parts of your personality that you're not comfortable with. And so for many years, one would think that I was considered a functioning addict because I did really well. I made a lot of money. But if you look back at my life, it looked more like a roller coaster ride, a very dangerous roller coaster ride, with peaks and valleys that brought a lot of pain. not only just for myself, but for the women in my life. Divorced twice, married 3 times. And I would say a lot of those first two relationships were probably due to the drug use, even though both of us were involved in that lifestyle. It basically brought a lot of pain. So that was the first part of that. I don't know where you want me to stop, but that was the
Wow.
first.
Wow. Thank you. I mean, this is wow. Talk about authentic and honest here, man. I mean, having said that, you're 62 now. So we are talking really 40 years ago. That was the 80s. We're both similar age. I'm 57. So these were the 80s. It's interesting. So cocaine was rampant in where you were based. See, as for us, it was there was some marijuana around, but cocaine in Germany never made it on the scene. At least not in those circles where I was going around. Intriguing what you're saying, though, because it did the same as alcohol did for me. It sort of masked the insecurities. It allowed me to suddenly love after quite some trauma that I had suffered prior to that. So with hindsight, there were not so many root causes for it that you could actually really put your fingers on. It was just something that was there and that created an alter persona, and you liked that persona, and that's how it started for you. Is that right?
Yes, and I'll be honest with you, there actually was a root cause that I discovered when I was about 45. I got diagnosed with ADD and found out that I'd been self-medicating myself for many, many years. And that's why I was able to concentrate, and that's why I felt like I was smarter and more functional because, you know, realized that there was a reason for it, and that made me. I got to tell you, when I got that diagnosis, I bawled like a baby because I thought I was broken and stuff for a long time, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And I remember the doctor telling me she goes because my wife was there at the time, my current wife that I've been married to now for 24 years. The doctor said, "Okay, you're a brilliant guy. Your mind moves faster than most. You're borderline genius." And I can see why you've been so successful. But I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm gonna put you on this medication. And if you do this medication along with cocaine, you're gonna have a stroke. And you have to make a choice which life you want. That was the last time I ever did cocaine. And that was the thing that freed me. Number one, I wasn't stupid, which is what I felt for most of my life. Some validation that the success I had wasn't accidental. And that I had a choice that I could now start the healing process. So I wanted to put that in here because it was really important to know that there was a reason why my body kept going back to this drug. I didn't know the reason why. And then once I found out, it made a big difference in helping me shift my life. So I want to make sure that I say that here.
Oh, beautifully said. And the moment you said cocaine was really helping you to become clear, I misunderstood that as becoming that different persona. Yet now that you're saying it is so bloody obvious. The Ritalin and many other drugs that are used for the management of ADHD. Are working on similar receptors or have the similar outcome within the body. So no surprise there that that cocaine was of benefit to you. Oh wow. Oh wow. Okay. But then again, by then, it was not just you using. You were initially the athlete. Then you made tons of money. Now, typically, with that transition also comes changes in weight, comes changes in your habits. Let me guess, you were no longer going for the salad and for a run throughout your 30s and 40s. Educated guess.
You know, it's interesting that I don't really care much for alcohol. Like it's not something I could go and have a cocktail and be done with it. But when I was on cocaine, I drank a lot because I tried to balance myself. I didn't want to be too up and then it would be too down. And so that was the dance. trying to balance myself. And so the amount of consumption of alcohol absolutely changed my health. It changed my body. All of a sudden, I went from the guy who was athletic looking
Yeah.
to being overweight, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, sleep apnea. That was the next stage of evolution for me, was now figuring out why I was using the drug, but now living with the aftermath of being on the drugs and alcohol for such a long time, that my health started to, completely change, and my body changed dramatically. So that was that opened me up to what I do today, right? So it's like I'm a master coach in health transformation, embodiment, and mindset. That journey began once I realized, okay, I'm stuck in this health cycle. My parents both passed away from diabetes related to heart failure, kidney failure. My grandparents died from that. I'm now a type 2 diabetic. I have sleep apnea. I have high blood pressure. What do I do? And that was kind of where I was at that juncture.
Cool, cool. Because you're not alone there. I mean, you talk 50% of the American population, and certainly that trend goes around the world, where there is food to be consumed and where there is mass media that is manipulating your desires and offering you immediate satisfaction if you just have one more cheesecake or one more pack of chips. So here you go. My goodness. So you're not alone there. And we see it in the medical community. We see the flow on effects in daily life with people being bigger, and every single thing, the hypertension, the diabetes, and the sleep apnea are the classical companions of you gaining weight. Wow. I am intrigued, though, what happened thereafter. It's one thing to recognize that things are not so good, but how the hell did you turn the corner? How the hell did you actually go out there and start the journey to become the person who you are now?
Oh, I gotta be honest that I said I was married 3 times. So my current wife is my third wife. And my third wife, when she met me, she didn't know I was an addict. And she found out shortly thereafter that I was hiding. She was in my suit pockets, and she found, like, cocaine wrappers in my pockets, and she was like, devastated. I mean, I was hiding it for quite a while. And God bless her, because unlike the other ladies that I was with, and it's no fault to them, but she just said, I know who you are. I see the beauty in who you are as a human, but I'm not tolerating this. Simple as
Wow.
that. I'm not tolerating it. Um, and I loved her so much, and I love her so much. And the part of me, I knew there was a part of me she wanted to be the man that she saw, that I as far as I'm concerned, I had to make a choice. Stefan, I had to make a choice.
Nice.
Do I want to be the man I am, or do I want to be the man I was meant to be? And that was the question that I had to answer. And that was the choice. That was the call that I took, to say, I'm going to go find the man that I was meant to be. I believe that living our purpose is creating the version of ourselves that we are proud of, and then bringing that version to the world. The version I was being, I was not proud of. I was in a shame cycle all the time. And so that's when I said, okay, it's now or never. And in every relationship, I think someone leads and someone follows. She was definitely leading, and I either had an opportunity to either step up or step out. And I decided to step up.
Okay, that explains a lot, because what you've done is you found your why. You found the reason. You find the driver, a positive driver that allows you to ground yourself when your mind drifts, or when your habits are sort of crumbling a little bit, because we are all procrastinators deep inside. Do you want to embrace the suck and just go for a gym session, or for a run, or for a swim, or for a cycle, whatever it is? Or do you just want to watch telly, or do whatever, something else? Well, guess what? There is a strong drive in you to say, nah, nah, nah. Okay, so you found your why. and
Yeah.
therefore you found your drive. But then again, where did you start? Did you start all by yourself, in the sense of, okay, I can figure that out? Because this would have been now what? We're talking mid 40s?
At 47.
47, there you go. So that's 15, 17 years ago. Internet just about sort of coming out, not yet the thing that it was. Information was not as easily available. How the hell did you get started?
It's interesting, it was right about that time. I was in the mortgage business for 25 years. That's
Mm,
where I made most of my wealth, if you will.
mm,
And when the market crumbled here in 2007, 2008, all of that started to come falling apart. And it's interesting that I thought that I was just a victim of circumstance like everybody else. The mortgage business imploded, life is happening. But I know now that the lifestyle that I was living led to that happening, right? So it's like there's many people that the mortgage business crashed and they survived it because they were different, they were prepared differently. I was still just coming out of this life of addiction. I'm thinking I'm just now getting my life together. The market crashes. I start losing everything around me, and I'm thinking I'm being punished for all the years that I spent wasted. You know, and I'm thinking, okay, this is just another slap in the face. What happened for me, what my come to Jesus moment was the mortgage business is crashing. We're losing properties. I'm returning my cars. Things are getting repossessed. The $4.5 million house I'm living in, they're afraid they're going to foreclose on me. And I'm in my closet still working, trying to do loans because there's nothing else I knew how to do. That's all I knew how to do all my life. We downsized the business and I'm in my closet, putting on my suit, getting ready to get ready for work. And I can't get into it. And I had like 15 designer suits and I started going one by one, trying to put these pants on and none of them would button. And I was like, how is it possible? I just ate myself out of my clothes over the weekend. And it was, for some reason, that moment, I was so humiliated. And I think all the pressure, everything that was around me started coming down. I found myself in my closet sobbing for like 20 to 30 minutes, just like I'd never cried that hard. I mean, I didn't cry that hard even when my parents passed away. It was like I just broke open. And I just said, God, I can't do this anymore. I need some help. I don't know what to do. Now my career is gone. I'm losing everything around me. Like, what do I need to do? And you know what? It literally was like a month or two later, I stumbled across some bizarre weight loss protocol that promised big things. I thought it was BS, but I was so desperate. I said,
Yeah.
I am going to do anything. And lo and behold, it was something. It was actually legit, and I lost 43 pounds in 37 days. And I went, "How is this possible?" You're right. The internet was just happening, and I just said, "I got to tell people about this because if I can't help them, I can't sell it to them. I can't show them to. I show it to them, but I just want people to know that if they're struggling like me, and they had high blood pressure, sleep apnea, and type 2
Mm.
diabetic, and they wanted to find something that actually worked." I could tell them that it worked. I could at least tell them that they don't need to be as skeptical as I was. And I literally put my telephone number on the internet and said, if you ever need any help, call me. And that was the beginning of the change in my life. People started calling me.
How
Yeah.
cool is that?
Yeah.
Because with that, A, you get connection with like-minded individuals. B, you close the circle from victim to survivor to thriver. There's so many things that were happening at just that moment in time. Having said that, just losing weight is one thing. You gained muscle. I can lose weight very effectively. I can fast. It's actually not so difficult for me. So I can do 10 days, 20 days, 30 days fast, and it all down. And yeah, then what? Because I've not dealt with the underlying reasons for eating, the emotional overeating, all the reasons why there are. And that's the thing that happens, that why so many people lose their weight and immediately gain it back up, or even get more
Yeah.
than they were initially at. So,
Yeah.
where did the exercise come in?
Great question. Because my wife was a group exercise instructor, personal trainer. And this particular protocol that we did, you weren't allowed to exercise. You had to just walk. And in her mind, she's like, it doesn't make any sense. And in my mind, it said it didn't make any sense. But I go, I'm following this thing to the letter because I don't want, if I deviate from it, then I can't blame anybody but myself. If I follow it and it doesn't work, then I can go back to the doctors and say this was bogus. Well, it worked. We did it again after I realized it worked. Went on vacation where I lived by the beach for 15 years, never took my shirt off, and I went to Jamaica, Jamaica for a couple of weeks, place I grew up with as a kid, and went there and I still ate the food, and I came back and I gained like 14 pounds in 14 days, and I was like, wait a minute, there's something wrong with what I'm doing. This is something. This doesn't work exactly how I thought it would. Because accordingly, it was supposed to be told that you could just do this thing one time and it would fix your metabolism and you'd be perfectly fine.
So you go, so you go once to the gym and then you're healthy. I love it. I love it. I love it. Exactly, I want that diet. Yes, please.
So we came back, and this time I did it again. But this time, my wife and I said, let's put some exercise to it. Let's do some high intensity interval training workouts. And all of a sudden, my body looked completely different. It was like another, 4 to 6 weeks later, I was like, now I had been going to the gym before, but I was the fat guy that you couldn't see anything because it was covered up with all that fat. When I lost weight the first time, I started to see abs for the first time, but you could see that there was, it's like Michelangelo just chipped away the excess. There was something there. This time around, when I actually put in the strength training and put in the high intensity interval training workouts, I started running 4 miles a day. The body that came out of that was completely I looked like an athlete again at 47 and a half years old. And everyone started looking at me going, how is it possible your body changed so quickly? And so that's when my wife, every time we went someplace, people would stop me and they would look at me and they'd be gassed, because I'd be wearing a tank top and I'd be muscular and like, I just saw you a few short months ago. You didn't look like this. And she just said, I think you better make a web page or something that explains what you did, because every time we go out, you're talking to people for 45 minutes explaining this protocol. And I took her advice and did a blog, and I started blogging about it. And that blog brought traffic. That traffic brought opportunity for us to actually create the space to help people do exactly what we did. Yeah. And that's what I do to this day. Well, so that's kind of that was. Yeah, so that created that. And I want you you mentioned something about people losing weight and gaining it back. And you mentioned something very important, that they often never change the mindset. They never change the mind, but they change the body. And then if you don't change the mind, the body comes back. So exactly. My philosophy is that any nutrition plan is the outside game. Of course, macros matter, calories in, calories out matter, how you move your body, training matters. The inside game, what traumas, what limiting beliefs, what old stories are you still processing that you haven't let go of? Because that's still stuck in your fat cells. And unless you're willing to do the inside game and the outside game, I believe permanent weight loss doesn't happen. For me and my clients, that's what we do. We spend more time on the inside game than the outside game.
Exactly. You're so right, because it's the emotional overeating. It's all that. So true. I'm going through a divorce. I'm going through some quite radical challenges to my inner being. So whilst I'm putting all the effort into the body, and you can't eat much healthier than I do, yet there are my fear, my stress, the emotional overeating is playing still a big role in stopping me. Having said that, there is a certain acceptance there that right now, with all that shit going on in my life, that maybe right now there is time to work on the inner bit, and don't look at a scale, don't look at a weight, but keep doing the work. Don't expect the magic to happen. Yeah, there, immediate satisfaction. No. This is a game of months and years, and it's a game where the rules are not so well defined, and the rules depend on your body and your genes and your epigenetics, what you're doing with them. So I think it's so important to actually adapt your lifestyle, gradually see what works, what doesn't work for you, and actually move forward. But alone, that's very difficult. So I guess that's lovely that people like you out there who are helping others to actually achieve that. But that's not really the whole story with you. Here you are,
No,
there's this kind of Cinderella. Oh, yes, whatever kind of fairy tale you imagine. He has seen the light and here, look at him, he is fantastic. But then life decided, well, actually, you know what, Colin F. Watson? Why don't we throw a few injuries in there? Why don't we put a bit more, see what he's really made of? Colin, what happened to you then?
glad you asked that question, Stefan. So I'm living life. I'm thriving. I'm healthy. I'm fit. Going to the gym is part of my lifestyle. And just one day in the gym, I'm lifting a weight. I'll be honest, I think I was probably looking around and not really being present with my body. And I picked up an 80-pound dumbbell, and I remember feeling my back kind of tweak a little bit. I was like, ooh, I didn't feel too good, but it was fine. And I completed my workout. And within about 24 to 48 hours, all of a sudden I started getting this amazing sciatica. I'd never had sciatica pain, so I found out what it was, but it just this shocking pain down on my lower back and down my legs. And I was like, what is it was I'd never experienced anything like that in my life. But then after it was like that for like 4 or 5 days, then it went away. And I was like, okay, I just must have strained something. I'm good. And then all of a sudden I'm noticing my wife is looking and she's like, why are you limping? And I realized, I realized that my left leg was actually starting to drag behind me. It wasn't like I couldn't pick my foot off the ground. And she said, you need to go see somebody. So I went to an orthopedist, and he's like, if you were an NFL player, you would have been in surgery, in 24 hours. And I had been doing this now for 3 or 4 weeks, like walking around like this. Needless to say, the insurance we had at the time, you have to choose whatever surgeons that they make available for you. The guy I saw had a surgeon he wanted me to see, but he wasn't in my insurance, so I ended up picking the best one I could find in my insurance. Had the surgery, woke up, walked out of the hospital on my own accord, felt great. Went home, and then the very next morning, I got up to go out of bed to go to the bathroom, and I took 2 steps, and my back buckled, and I fell to the ground, and I was like, "What just happened?" And I couldn't stand up, and I called my wife, and I said, "I can't stand up," and she got me up on my feet, but I couldn't straighten up, so I was like bent over, at a 45-degree angle, and every time I tried to straighten up, I would go into spasms. And so she calls the doctor, and he's like, well, you're a big guy, you kind of have a lot of muscle, you should give it a couple days and just lay in bed. And he gave me a steroid pack, and this I couldn't. I went on like that. I ended up getting a walker. Because I could not stand up straight. And I'm taking the steroids, and it's like weeks going by, and I'm in this walker. And my wife, God bless her, she was like, okay, we're going to the emergency room, because the only way we can force this situation is if we're going to go to the emergency room. We go to the emergency room, and actually, no, I actually ended up having a spasm. I started having a spasm where my legs were just kicking and screaming, and she called the ambulance, and they took me to the emergency room because I couldn't straighten out my body, and they couldn't get me into the ambulance because they couldn't lay me down. It was quite a journey. I get there, the doctor comes in, and it forces them to take another MRI and look at it, and they see a little pocket. We have to go back in. Come to find out that my back had broken. The vertebrae were broken in my back, right above where he did the surgery. May have shaved something a little bit too much. Something happened, but the vertebrae broke. So I come out of surgery, and he tells me, we got everything fixed up. We had to fuse you at L3-4, and had to put in an artificial vertebrae, but you should be fine. So I got fused, which, if you know anything about a spine at 3-4, the last thing you want to be is fused, because it automatically starts to cause the vertebrae below it, the disc below it, to fuse over time. So I still had this nerve damage and pain in my leg after that surgery, and I was told that could take up to 18 months for the damage for the nerve to come back to life. And so, trusting as I was, I just had this limp, and I still had pain down the leg. And he said, "Don't worry, it'll go
Ah,
away in time." And just to make a long story short, he didn't open up the right. He didn't do surgery in the right spot. He didn't surgery on the right vertebrae. That they never opened up the space for where the nerve was actually being pinched. And I waited almost 18 months in pain still. I could walk probably about 10 to 15 feet at a time and have to sit down. And then
wow.
decided to get new insurance, got a new surgeon, and he went in there, did MRI. And he said, "I hate to break it to you, but you most likely are going to have permanent nerve damage in the leg because he didn't open up the spot and it's been way too long now. So we're going to go in there and fix it." That led to surgery number 3 and then surgery number 4. And it's like they kept trying to fix the discs and kept kind of shave things down. Um, and it just wasn't working. And I literally could not walk and I was in such pain. This is when I started to get really into a dark place.
Mm-hmm.
I finally started to understand why people say they want to take the bridge or they get suicidal, because I'm looking at my life going, we had now moved twice from where we live. My wife moved everything for us. I was literally watching. I had to sit in the chair and watch her pack boxes and move things. I could not do anything. Um, I felt helpless. I felt shame. I felt and even though she just was a tough cookie and she didn't say anything about it, just the masculine in me just got demasculated over and over again because I couldn't do anything. Um, and it went on. So I had lots of choices, but what it taught me was I suddenly had compassion for people that had chronic pains, because I had clients that had chronic pains. I'm like, "Yeah, I get it, but can't you move past it?" It's interesting how God doesn't. He does put you through something where you suddenly start realizing, oh, depression. I totally understand depression. My wife went through 10 years of depression, and I was like, "Can't you just snap out of it?" I don't get it. All the insensitivities that I had around certain things, I got to experience myself.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Isn't it when karma slaps you in the face and you Oh, and I love because again, same situation or similar experiences I've made in my life. And it is good because that is the moment that we start to grow. That is the moment that we have to start dig deep. Having said that, here you were with an addicted mind for what, 2, 3 decades. Okay, how did it go with the painkillers? You would be.
Interesting. I'm sorry, I didn't even know.
Oh no,
Go
no,
ahead.
no! It is. It would be so logical for you to fall back just in a different way on a different vice. And vice
Yeah.
is a shit word in this case because you're treating pain. You're very much treating pain. There are very powerful painkillers out there. The problem, of course, is you're not only treating the physical pain, but also the emotional pain, the depression, all that with your addicted mind. Well, where did that go?
The blessing was that opiates did not work for me at all. I got
Good.
zero relief from any opiates.
Brilliant.
What painkiller they gave me, I got nothing. It was like my body was literally immune to, and I thought about that. Trust me, I thought about that. But this chronic pain for this many years, was I going to be being a junkie again? And it's like, and for me, for God's grace, it just didn't work. So I was stuck with Tylenol and ibuprofen and the steroid patches. I mean, that was it, and that was why living with the pain was really, really challenging. And I just thought, this is my life. This is my life. And I happened to go to one more doctor, and he just said, "You're a candidate for a disc replacement. Tell them to stop messing with your disc and just replace them." Um, and that's what happened. So surgery 6 and surgery 7 was replacing the discs, L4 and L5, S1. and I was able to walk again. I still experience, I never want to claim anything. I still experience nerve damage in my left leg. I still have a limp. And I say experience it because I always give hope that it'll somehow come back. And but that allowed me to at least return to my life. And when the doctor said, you can go back to your life, I didn't know what that meant. I was like, I hadn't been able to do anything for so long that I just cried. I said, what do you mean I can go back to my life? He said, you can go back to your life. You can go back to the gym. You can go back to hiking. You can go back to doing everything you wanted to do. And I was like, I didn't know what that meant. I was like, I was afraid. I was afraid to go back to my life. And to this day, I mean, I go to the gym and there's still some PTSD when I do leg day and I put a bar in the back of I do squats or something like that. I pray every single time that, you know, keep me healthy. Yeah.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Again, thank you for your honesty, because it's so easy to look at your physique and your presence, your aura, with jealousy and envy there, and think, I want to be like that. But they don't see the darkness that you had to go through. They don't see the resilience that you had to bring up. They don't see the many, many, many hard hours, because hours of recuperation. Because here you were basically, I call it crippled, pretty much with your pain. And the first time you went back into the gym, you say yourself, full of fear avoidance, full of PTSD. Ultimately, I mean, it's a perfect way of describing it. And you feel like an idiot, because you have probably been using quite a lot of weights. You knew how to do it. And now you're starting with 5 kilogram dumbbells.
And not to mention that my body morphed back to that. I mean, I went back. My body more. I couldn't walk and do anything. So even when I was trying to maintain a good, healthy diet, because of the medications and the steroids in my body, I went back to a 46-inch waist. I mean, I went back to a guy with a pot belly and just like I looked like I started all over. So talking about starting over again, I looked like I started all over again. And think how challenging it was for me to be a coach in the space and having my face be like a pumpkin and my body looking like it was. And I had an excuse because of all my back surgeries and I was on walkers. But I mean, ultimately, it was just humiliating for me to show up on a Zoom call or show up on a video. And I saw a gentleman in the gym that looked like I used to look. And I kept looking at him and I kept looking at him. And I said, I'm going to go ask this guy for help. And I asked him, I said, I need you to get me back in shape. And he said, why? I said, because I told my story. He goes, great story, but why do you want to get back in shape? He goes, do you want to compete? I go, no, I do not want to compete. I just want to look back I want to look like you. He said, well, I don't train people unless you're going to compete. And I said, well, I don't want to compete. I don't want to go on stage. I don't want to do any of that stuff. I just want to get back in shape. And he said, but sorry, I can't help you. And I walked away from there and I left and I was really upset and angry at this dude because he was not listening to me apparently. But it was almost like God speaking to me. He's like, he goes, you need something that's going to push you beyond yourself because this is not exactly what you want to accomplish is not easy, right? So I went home, I pulled up the NPC physique composite competition site, and there was a show that was 16 weeks in the future. And I just said, okay. So I bought the ticket and I sent him a text message saying I just signed up for the 16 weeks for the NBC 16 weeks from now. And he goes, now I'll coach you.
People will probably not know what NPC is.
Yeah, it's a national physique competition that they do here in the United States, and it's like a bodybuilding. They have different categories, and so physique, for example, is just board shorts and just having a decent physique, and then they have light bodybuilding. They have the full on national bodybuilders. They want to be a bodybuilder. I just want to get back in shape, and so I heard the message because he was so adamant about it, and I look back. Stepping down, I realized that God was speaking to me, and He sent me so many messengers, and because there was no way I was going to push past what it was going to take for me to get back in shape on my own without having something to go for, like something to go for. So what I did, I basically did the thing. I signed up with him, paid him the money, and then I put on my social media that I was doing. I locked myself into a corner like I could not get out of. I said, I'm doing
Nice.
this competition in 16 weeks. I'm
Nice.
calling 15 weeks to Shreds,ville and watch me and just watch me go through this journey. And I documented my comeback. And that was the only way I could get myself to push past whatever obstacle was going to come up. I made sure that I couldn't quit because everyone would know I would quit, know I quit. So I was like, that was it. And
Nice.
16 weeks later, I hit the stage. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Having said that, it's one thing to push through through your limits and embrace the pain. It's another thing to do that when you're essentially in your mid-50s heading towards the 60s. You had just injured yourself. And if I get $1 for every middle-aged man who is trying to push himself and then sees me for his shoulder surgery for me to anesthetize him, yeah, okay, so how the hell did you prevent further injuries? You're pushing yourself. That in its own right has got its own risks.
Yeah. Well, that was one thing that my trainer knew my injuries. And the thing was that I did that at surgery between surgery 4 and 5.
Right.
Before 5, 4, 6, and 7, I did the competition because I couldn't stand walking around and the feeling the way I was feeling, looking the way I was looking. And I didn't know surgery 6 and 7 was ever going to cure my problem. I just realized that if I'm going to live with this, I'm going to live with it in dignity. I'm going to live with it by me being the best version of myself that I could be. And I knew that I could be held accountable. People can hold themselves accountable sometimes, but you're easier to hold yourself accountable to somebody else, right? And so when he gave me a program and I had to show photographs and I had to show my macros and I had to show all this stuff. Every Friday I had to report to somebody. And I knew after coaching people, the accountability is what gets them to show up for themselves, right? So I did what I was doing for other people. I hired somebody that was going to keep me accountable. And as I started pushing through it, he said, don't put anything on your back. Don't put any weights on you. He gave me all kinds of exercises I could do that would build my body back without jeopardizing or hurting me. And he goes, if anything hurts, let's modify it. So that's what I did. Yeah. Yeah.
And
It was
again,
scary.
oh hell yes, absolutely, I betcha. Because the trauma was there for you and the fear was there for you. And we're not just talking about you, if I can't do it, then who cares? There's no consequences. No, for you were still in the training. You were making money through your ability to coach. And yes, of course, there's a fear there, an existential fear there. How did you deal with that? How did you deal with the imposter syndrome, with that inner critic that you just sometimes want to strangle, but however strong you get your hands around his neck, he still pipes up.
Yes. That imposter, it's such a perfect word because that was very, very present for me. Because it didn't matter, because of the way I looked. It's like if no one's ever taken like prednisone and steroids that they give you for pain to take down inflammation, it'll morph your body into looking in ways that you don't recognize. I mean, your face gets puffy, your body gets puffy. And so it looked like I was just somebody who didn't take care of themselves. And yet I was doing everything possible to keep my nutrition under control. My body was just doing things that I couldn't control. So every time I got on a Zoom, and every time I just felt like an imposter because people could look at me and go, and I even had to shoot video. I remember shooting videos and people commenting like, how are you telling people how to lose weight when you look like you're a pufferfish? Yeah.
Well, talk about being kicked in the balls when you're down.
Yeah, and I would say, well, if you've had five, if you've had five back surgery at a time or four back surgery at a time and couldn't walk for 7 months, you'd probably be a little bit more sympathetic. But like I said, it was necessary for me to really understand compassion and compassion for myself.
Mm.
I mean, this was the ultimate self-love journey
Ah,
that I got to look at myself and give myself grace, right? To give my inner children that were all the wounds were getting pinged along the way to start to when I talk about playing the inside game, I had to master the inside game for me.
oh,
Does that make
wow.
sense?
Oh, hell
I mean,
yes. Oh, yes. But again, you're talking about you're accepting that those emotions, or actually feeling those emotions to start off with, and
yes.
then having to accept them. But how how did you get through the dark nights of the soul? There will have been times when maybe you were curling up in a ball and just want to cry and pull the blanket over you. Um, how did you
I
get
did all
through?
I did all that, number one. What you resist persists, right? So um, I allowed myself to cry. I allowed myself to curl up in a ball. And I have to say that I had this amazing queen in my life that just that kept saying, you are amazing. The fact you're still doing this, the fact you're still fighting through it, the fact you're still showing up, the fact you haven't given up. I mean, it would have been much easier for me just to not show up on camera, to not
Exactly.
face what I was doing, right? I could just give all kinds of excuses.
Exactly.
And I think that once I decided I got a purpose, right? You said, the purpose was from the drugs. Like I had this woman in my life that said, I'm not going to tolerate this behavior. It's either you can either choose this behavior or you can choose me. Either way, I'm fine. And I was
Mm,
like, I choose you. Then when I said, okay, I get to create this journey back to health, right?
mm,
Um, it wasn't about getting back in shape. It was about, can I get myself back to whatever the highest level of health is going to be for me? Because I didn't know what I was capable of. I didn't know if this
nice.
body could get anywhere
Exactly.
other than where it was at. Right? I knew I didn't want to be where it was at, but I didn't know where it was going. And so once I had a mission, once I was given a mandate, I was given a training program, I was given, it's like, you got to work out twice a day. You get 2 a days, one in the morning, one at night. Once someone gives me the game plan and I can focus on the game plan, I
Mm,
was able to push past all of the dark nights of the soul. And when I couldn't, I just was with it. I think we as humans make the biggest mistake of not being with what's present for us. So it's like when the sadness came, I allowed myself to be sad. When the anger came, and there was a lot of anger, I
mm,
was really angry because I had all kinds of things to point fingers to. The surgeon that messed up, and then the multiple surgeries that failed over and over again. And I allowed myself to be angry. I
mm,
started utilizing practices that allowed me to tap into my anger. So when I say I played the inside game, I started doing what I now teach. I started
mm,
allowing myself to be with the parts of me that needed me, needed the man that I needed at the time, needed the man that my father wasn't for me when I needed it. And I hope it makes sense, but
mm.
it was trial and error. It was divine guidance. It was um, a lot of self-talk and a lot of self-love.
And it's exactly those skills that are so hard to foster. Most of us don't even know about these things because we have typically run away from our trauma. We typically try to hide. We try to escape our reality. That is the logical thing because deep down at the reptilian brain level, you really want pleasure and you hate pain and you do everything to get towards one and away from the other. Um, it, it's only when you face the stark realities of life with all its trauma and in the inevitability of change that forces you to actually stop hiding and actually start feeling. And I think that is what I hear here. You increasingly recognized that also the negative emotions are part of your life, and you allowed yourself to actually experience them. You allowed yourself to be in pain, to be the person who is injured, to be the person who is sad, to be the person who is angry. And that's beautiful. You actually investigated those emotions, and then you nurtured yourself. It's a beautiful, beautiful way how you learned how to deal with life, because it's those lessons that essentially create a resilience. And one thing that you said so beautifully is that you wanted to be the best person you could be, accepting that there are limitations. Sometimes, we have taught our children, you can be an astronaut, you can be anything you want. Well, great. When you're limping and you can't even go 10 steps, yeah, great. An astronaut. Yeah, tell me, how do I do that? No, but you accepted that there might be limitations, but still within those limitations, I will be the best version of myself. And I'm going to see if I can't push those limitations. Realizing nowadays we call it neuroplasticity. Nowadays we call it, there are many neuroscience words that and principles that prove to us that the past does not equal the future, and that we can do so much. And there are so many transformations out there where you think, wow, that's impossible. And here you are. You're living now alive to the fullest. Have there been any further injuries? Not necessarily with your back, or with maybe your shoulders. They're the typically other things that give out.
I mean, the shoulder has some work it could use, and I live with that. When you've had as many surgeries as I have, I just live with it for right now. I'm not in a hurry to go under the knife again. But like I said, I mean, I think when people are only result driven, when the results don't come fast enough, they give up, they quit. For me, I was just on the journey to see how healthy I could get. It didn't matter what I looked like when I hit the stage in 16 weeks, as long as I gave it all my best, right? What came from me showing up every day and doing my best was a body that was sculpted, that looked better than I'd ever looked in my entire life. I didn't know that was going to be the outcome. I just knew that I needed something to get me from where I was to someplace close to where I wanted to be. And by putting in the work, by showing up, by following the instructions that I was given, by allowing myself to break down when I needed to break down, but then get back up again. Not only did every day my confidence start to come back, right? Because I was showing up for myself. When I finally got to the show, I actually placed. I actually got trophies. I mean, way beyond my expectation, way beyond my imagination. I just wanted to show up. I just wanted to say I got here. All I cared about. And lo and behold, it was just a major accomplishment in my life that gave me a lot of self-respect from me. That guess what? Through all that, brother, you kept pushing through, and you made a really big setback a comeback.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that is often so underestimated. But I was always very bad in celebrating my wins. I always took them for granted. It didn't matter how many syllables and little alphabet soups I got behind my name, how many publications, how many, even in sport. It just didn't matter. It just, I took it for granted that I'm either the best or at least get through a whatever challenge, and then moved on immediately. Was that how did you celebrate your wins in the past, or was that also a skill you had to learn?
Wow, great question. I did not celebrate my wins in the past. I sure celebrated my failures a lot, but I did not celebrate.
And I wouldn't call it celebration, would it?
They weren't celebrations either. I sure spent a lot of time on my failures. You know what? I did not celebrate my wins a lot then. I do now. I celebrate even the smallest things.
Exactly.
I think we as humans do not celebrate enough. We always wait until I'll celebrate when I get to the thing. I celebrated every day that I was climbing the stairs to the gym and I was exhausted, that I actually got up to the top of the stairs and I actually got on the stairs or I got on the treadmill. The fact that I even made it there was a celebration. And I got in the habit, such a great question. I got in the habit of just celebrating myself for showing up,
Yeah.
celebrate for showing up. And yeah, and that was a powerful, powerful practice that got me to where I wanted to go. So
Yeah.
it was such a great.
But isn't it weird? Here we are talking in our 50s and 60s about learning such fundamental stuff, having these breakthroughs. And it's a little bit crazy, but I am actually so grateful to the universe that has given me so many challenges. But it also, therefore, put me into the situation nowadays where I get to talk to people like you, who have gone, guests who have gone through an amazing transformation, and where you suddenly realize, well, actually, I can feel very much for that guy because, yeah, I've been there, done that. Got the T-shirt, and it's brutal because a part of me says, "Oh my goodness, why did I not learn these lessons when I was 18?" I would have people could have held me down and tried to force me to hear that messages. I wouldn't have heard them. You need to have a certain degree of maturity and therefore develop a humility for us to actually accept that it is time for change.
Yes.
And in whatever higher power you believe, if that may be a deity like God or if it is the universe, the messages are out there. And often the solutions to problems are just waiting to be heard, but we are just so bad in stopping and listening and connecting with ourselves and living intentionally. So therefore, we're coming back full circle to really what you're doing, the inside out game versus the outside in game. You're so right. There's so much where we can change on the outside only for it all to crumble like a house of cards in the wind, because we have not dealt with the underlying problems, with the underlying drivers of all the root causes of all the shit that is going on. Wow. Colin,
Yeah.
you're an amazing man, an amazing transition, and a transformation, an amazing journey. My goodness. Have you figured out who you want to be when you grow up?
I am who I want to be when I grow up. I am. This
Excellent.
version of me is the most proudest version of me that I have. I love. I think when I turned 60, I thought that was a game changer for me. This is the best season of my life. I have the wisdom to look back and go, okay, this is how I want to do it. I went through all the pain and all the pain, all the setbacks, everything was for this moment of my life. So I have no regrets. I look back and go, I went through everything I needed to go through to be completely human and become the version of me that I am today. And I love this version of me. And I couldn't say that in my 20s. I couldn't say it in my 30s. I couldn't say it in my 40s. And I really couldn't say it in my 50s. So when I am the version of me that I wanted to be when I grew up. I am, and I love every bit of them.
You're an amazing man. I love to hear that. Colin, if there are...
And just know what you see in me is in you. What you see in me is in you. If you can see that in me, that I mean that's in you. Life's a mirror, it's not a window. So just want you to know that. Thank you. And I take that in. But yes.
I like that. I like that a lot. Colin, you're an amazing man. If people want to get hold of you, want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
ColinFWatson.com is my website where they can learn about all I do and how I do it. If they want to coach with me, it's ColinWatsonCoaching.com. So either one of those places will find me. I look forward to helping people. That's what I do. I'm excited to do it. It's my calling. And I really appreciate the time with you. You are a remarkable human being. So
thank you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, look down there into the description of the YouTube video and of the podcast because Colin's details are down there. And it's so hard to reinvent the wheel, and it's so poorly efficient. Okay, you can do so much better when you actually listen to someone who has been there, done that, and has learned the hard lessons for you. So why not actually try to get a head start? And it is said if you surround yourself by 6 millionaires, then it's very hard for you to really not prosper in wealth. If you surround yourself with 6 artists, 6 painters, sooner or later you pick up a pencil or a brush. Why not surround yourself with people who will guide you towards the best version that you can achieve within yourself? And most of us don't even know how beautiful this version can be. And so that's where a wingman like you is so important. So, Colin, thank you so much for being a guest on my show. You certainly brought some interesting thoughts out in me. You certainly, without knowing, you challenged me. And that is beautiful. Challenge accepted. So I will not put it out here, and it will not be a physique competition. That's I can show you. But having said that, I've got my own dreams, and you have proved to me that it is possible to achieve those things way beyond my dreams. Let's actually take the dream and create a vision out of it by being crystal clear what I want to achieve, and then putting habits in place stepwise, and turning this vision into a mission by taking action. And for that, I thank you for reinforcing that for me, and I can't wait. I can't wait. You're a man that I probably want to get back in a year or so, because there will be new challenges, new insights. You are growing, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So thank you so much for being a guest on my show.
Thank you, Stefan. I really appreciate it. It was my pleasure.
Cool. And you guys out there, please go out there, look after yourself, live with passion. Bye.